This is the Sober Boozers Club podcast.
Welcome everybody to the Sober Boozers Club podcast. My name is Ben Gibbs. I'm an alcoholic and I've been sober since January 2022. In that time, I have been navigating the world of alcohol-free beers, sampling some of the best that the world has to offer. In this podcast, we're going to talk to people from within these circles and find out a little bit about their journey. So you sit back, relax, and enjoy. This is my first ever episode with an American guest, and it is Tyler McMahon, aka Reducaholic. Now, what Tyler has been doing for the past few years is mapping all of the fantastic venues in the States providing alcohol-free beer. He's a fantastic commentator on all things alcohol-free, and I really was looking forward to having a chat with him about the beer scene over there. Tyler, thank you for taking time out of your morning. Is it morning? 12, well, it's 12, right? Midday, it's 7 for me. You're my first Transatlantic guest, so what a pleasure.
You're my first Transatlantic and a beer podcast, so likewise.
We're making firsts. Two things I'm going to ask you about first, which are probably so boring for you, but for a humble Brit, it's all I can think about. The first is Athletic, and the second is Bero. So Athletic, I've had some of their beers in the UK. There's some that you can get in the supermarkets, and they're terrible. But I'm hearing that over your side of the ocean, they're kind of all right, some of them. What's the deal there? Do they just hate us?
Wow, that's a good question. I like Athletic, and I think the Athletic was the first NA beer that I had that was said, wow, okay, this is something. And I had some other ones at that point. I do think their core range definitely has a lot of competition now. So maybe in the UK, where there's a market that's much more developed, that could be why relative. I don't know which ones you tried. I really do like Freewave, which is the orange can. I think it's a solid baseline hazy, mass market hazy. While the blue can is a lot of people's favorite. It's lesser on my list, but it's the first one that got me to like them. And then the yellow can, Upside Down, it's a basic pale with a little bit of hops in it. And then I think it hits the gluten removed folks too.
I need to maybe give them another go. It's just, I see some posts that come out from people in the States. And it's like Athletic, like black IPA and things like this. It's like, what? Why aren't you giving that to us? It's outrageous.
I think that's where one thing that I think Athletic doesn't get enough credit for, and I hope one day they open a European brewery or something like that, so you guys get that. Because
yeah, me too.
Mass Gang has brewed 200 beers, right? I don't know if Athletic's that far behind. I know some of them are repeats, but they're new versions. Like there's been a black IPA, a couple versions of it. There's been a hoppy amber, which I absolutely love and wish they bring back. They have an amazing sour that comes out next month with, I think, blueberry and lemon called Soul Sour for, Black History Month. That beer is incredible. Their sour series, the summer sour, seasonal sour series, it's amazing. Like they're top notch. But I think Athletic's polarizing among the NA purist community, which is kind of unfortunate because I think they're really good. I think they're, in the craft beer space, you're going to have the bigger ones and you're going to have the smaller ones. But I think Athletic, it's like 4 or 6 beers a month. I've been gone for 2 months. I think I have 8 new Athletics to try.
Wow, that's mad. That is mad. It's good to hear that, they're doing good things, because the picture I get of them as a Brit is just, that's that supermarket beer that's not very good, that just takes up space from, craft breweries in the UK. So to hear that they're actually, putting good things out is interesting, and I'm also very jealous. But that kind of leads me on to Bero, like talking about purists and about like some breweries being big, etc., etc. What is that about?
Wow, Bero's tricky. Okay, I'm a Marvel nerd, so I obviously I like Tom Holland. I think he's amazing. Spider-Man. I was actually just writing this to somebody. I really appreciate that, and the fact that he's 27 and he's already sober. He's like, I like craft beer, so I'm going to start my own line. And he seems to be authentically behind it, unlike some of the other brands. And I appreciate it. I have a bit of a bias because if you read the side of the can, it's brewed in Colorado, which is where from and where I'm sitting from right now. So the more NAs out of here, the better, because we're like the king of craft beer. But we've been a little bit behind in the NA space. Well, as an overall beer, I thought the Kingston Pils was a solid offering. And I thought the wheat was good as well. The hazy seems to be polarizing among people I know, just because it feels more like a light tropical pale with haze in it as opposed to a true smack you over the head hazy IPA. I like it as a beer. It's refreshing post bike ride. I have no problem with it. I think I worry it's going to become one of those supermarket beers too, but I think it's going to be a good one. You need a baseline of those that are good. Just like in the craft beer space, back in the day, we had Fat Tire and Sierra Nevada Pale, and those that you were like, well, if I'm at a restaurant and I see those, I'm not going to cry. It's better than a Budweiser. It still tastes decent, right? And I think Bero and Athletic's core beers will eventually fit into that space as it grows here.
Yeah, I completely agree. And like, there is a space for really good supermarket beers as well as your more bespoke, like bottle shop offerings. And I think it's really important that we have accessible beers in these accessible places, because I talk about Heineken a lot and beers like that just ruin non-alc beer for me and for so many others, because what's most people's first impression of alcohol-free beer over in the UK is probably Beck's Blue. And it's not good. It's just not good.
It's not. A couple years ago, before I tried to become fully sober, I was in New York and I used the Athletic Beer Finder to find Athletic, and I didn't. And I ended up getting Beck's Blue, and I didn't make it through dry July. My dry July, I had one bottle into that Beck's Blue. I was like, no, can't do this. Sorry.
This also backs up my point in terms of, like, I drink alcohol-free beer because I have to, right? How many people that are kind of teetering on the edge and are leaning into non-alc beers as a way to not drink alcohol, try a Beck's Blue, and then go back to alcohol and never touch alcohol-free beer again? There's a big responsibility there to make a liquid that is genuinely good and genuinely will pass for a decent beer. So if Tom Holland and Bero are doing that, and he's been very open about his sobriety and all of that as well, which I'm here for, then I think it's fine. More options are good for now, because we're in such early days really of where the industry is hopefully going to end up. I think people like this that get involved and do it for the right reason is a good thing. I just don't understand why it's not in the UK again.
I think it's landed. It's sold out, though.
What?
Yeah, it landed in the UK, and some of it already sold out like that. I've been following them a bit.
How did we miss this? I call myself a bloody beer guy. I haven't spotted. I knew that they were doing teasers, and it was like, oh, soon. I was like, yeah, you should fucking hope so soon. You've got a beer called Kingston Pils, for fuck's sake. Like, the audacity. Do you know what pissed me off? And then we'll stop talking about these two rather mundane breweries. But what pissed me off, they ran their whole social campaign, and it was like, coming soon, alcohol-free beer, like all of this. It was like, oh, not once did they mention America. And then they launched, and all of a sudden you go back on their post history, and it's all US only, US only. It's like, you didn't tell us that at the time. Freaky. Like, yeah. Anyway, I need to calm down. That's a trigger for me, apparently. So how did this whole thing start for you? Because you've been doing, like, mad things with NA beer and then the map and all of this business that you've got going on. How did you get into alcohol-free beers, and when did you decide to make this, like, such a big part of your life?
So I always loved craft beer. I think it was in college. I didn't really like macros. I grew up in the middle of nowhere. I had some bad episodes of macros and other stuff. So I homebrewed my way through my senior year of college, and I really love craft beer. But I've lived abroad for I don't know, 15 years in Nepal, and there was no craft beer there until 2015. So every time I come back, I'd be like 3-4 craft beers a day. And I came back in 2019. And I was like, this isn't healthy, because by then craft beer had hit Nepal, kind of. So it was like also too many craft beers a day there. I never like full on drunken episodes. So one day I just Googled just indie Colorado craft brewery make NA beer, and Groovy and Well-Being showed up. And I was like, all right, these sound interesting. They're all right. I only got my hands on Wellbeing's Victory, which is their electrolyte infused ones. That had a little bit of odd taste. Wellbeing is actually great. And this was the early days of Groovy, and I really appreciate Groovy's take feedback and improve their beers, because those, now they're quite good. But then Athletic started stalking me on Instagram. You know how that happens. So all of a sudden, I'm like, what is this gimmick? And I came back in 2020 and I found an Athletic. I was like, whoa, all right. So I started incorporating it. So now it's like, it became a thing. I'm nerdy, so I'm going to try to find this one, try to find that one. And some of my friends did too. And next thing I know, I'm like cataloging them in my head, and that's turning into a spreadsheet. And then I saw the AF Beer Club map and some other stuff like that. And I was like, what if I just built a way for people to find beer when they were out? And I did, but 2 people beat me to that. So then I was like, well, I love craft beer. So what if I built a way for people to find all the little local breweries and big breweries who make their own, and all of the tap rooms of their own that they serve it at? So that's how it started. It started as I had that too. So it came in a spreadsheet, 400 plus locations and into a map. And on the way, I picked up a lot of other information. I mean, I'm a nerd. Everybody I told from my high school class and college class is like, yeah, I built a spreadsheet. They're like, yeah, of course you did. So that's how we got here.
Man, you take like the AF Beer Club map, which is the UK map, and you think, okay, that's like, having taken that over, that's a lot of work. But then you put that to a country the size of yours, that's mad. Like, how many, I can't even begin to think of how many tap rooms are in the States.
Yeah. Well, it's like 300. So I don't do like, so say Mash Gang is on draft in 15 different tap rooms. I'm not going to map those because they have their own beer finder, or they don't specifically, but they will, right? But what I do is Mash Gang is mapped at Pilot Project Brewing in Chicago and Milwaukee, because you can go to both those tap rooms and you can get Mash Gang at the place to brewed. So it's fewer locations than AF Beer Club if AF Beer Club were fully expanded to the U.S. If AF Beer Club were fully expanded to the U.S., it would probably have fewer locations, because non-alcoholic, alcohol-free beer on draft here is still taboo, and we need to talk about this later.
Yeah, we'll definitely get onto that.
Yeah, but that's the key difference. It's like, it's not the distribution more as the home, because here we have a culture going to the brewery to drink, right? So it's like Prost Brewing, for example, just launched an NA in Colorado, and now I can go to any of their 4 tap rooms and get their NA Pilsner in a can, not on draft, but at least at the place of origin.
What's the perception like over there on alcohol-free? You hear stigmas, right, about like British drink culture, and it's always Americans can't handle their drink. That's the stigma that we kind of grow up with, or that we did when I was younger, because we like to drink quite a lot of beer. But then in Britain, a few years ago, certainly, alcohol-free beer was kind of mocked. It was like, oh, what's the point? Why would you drink that? And things are kind of changing now, mainly due to Guinness, I think. I think Guinness having a really good alcohol-free beer, it's kind of like, that's the beer that your dad would drink. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh yeah, well, if Guinness are doing it, then it's all right, because I like Guinness and I trust Guinness. So yeah, it must be fine.
Yep.
So perception is starting to change over here. Have you noticed any negativity your end, or is that kind of non-existent?
Oh no, there's plenty of negativity here. It's
good.
More, I would say more, but definitely it's quite interesting. I mean, I saw non-alcoholic beer referred to as woke beer the other week, and I'm like, but the king of the anti-woke doesn't drink, guys. Come on, Trump doesn't drink. Like Musk says he doesn't drink. I'll have my doubts about that one. So their kings don't drink, and they're like, oh, it's woke beer. But the thing is that it's like, it is, but it's changing. So I'm starting to see some evolution where the comments are like, oh, non-alcoholic beer, alcohol-free is, we don't like it. But now you're starting to see the same thing as you say Guinness. Guinness is also a driver here. I think Guinness is Heineken. Heineken's terrible, but Heineken also itself is terrible. So they're both terrible. Like if you're drinking an alcoholic Heineken, you're drinking a non-alcoholic Heineken. I didn't like that. I don't like this, but the taste is the same. So good mimic. But same with Bud Zero also, Coors Edge, Blue Moon, and Athletic. And these other, like Athletic is really changing the space now that it has athletes. It's going into college sports. It's going to college women's basketball, which I think is awesome. And college football players, like top quarterbacks in the bowl games are all sponsored by Athletic. So something is changing. So that's the part of America that like it's a big drinking culture that people are going to be watching those games. And now they're starting to see Athletic, and now Athletic's in tall boys, 19.2 ounce, like, so over a pint. Like,
You'd see that the other day, someone with a tall Athletic can. And it was like, what? This is like, look who's catching up.
Yep.
It's good. And I think, I might be wrong here. No, it's Asahi Zero, I think, and that sponsor Arsenal. But I'm sure Athletic were involved in Arsenal or one of the football teams over here. It could be Fulham. Was it Fulham because they're owned by America? I don't know. I'm chatting nonsense now, but I have seen Athletic and sports links, and I think it's a good thing because not only like for sponsorship, but also people in sports stadiums. How are you getting home if you're drinking? And if you're only offering subpar drinks, you're just putting that little bit of doubt in there. It's like, oh, you could just have a couple of beers. Like, it might be fine, but it might not. Whereas if there's a good alcohol-free option, it's like, okay, well, choice is made for you, isn't it?
Exactly. I think Athletic, you're right on the football team. I just don't remember, or as we say in America, but I've been abroad so long. I say football now for you guys. Soccer. So a soccer team for the American listeners over here. They do sponsor one. I don't remember. It's a recent thing, and it was really amazing. Also, for me, I'm a runner, mountain biker, and they're at a whole bunch of races and best days following their footsteps too. So like Athletic sponsors Lifetime Fitness, which is this big ultra running and mountain bike series, and you get them at the finish, and it's a genius marketing move, and everybody loves it. And some people heard about it, but even in that type of crowd, not everybody's heard about it. So they're doing a lot of the right things, and I will almost always appreciate them, I think.
Yeah, I think there's these brands within the scene that kind of establish themselves fairly early on and start to make waves and lay the foundations. Like for us, it was Lucky Saint. Lucky Saint's just a really good lager. Like if you're recommending a beer to someone, Lucky Saint is always the one, because you know that they're not going to be disappointed. You know that they can get it pretty much anywhere, and it's got a map on the website, so you can find it on tap, which is huge, and you know it's going to be a good pint as well. So I think these beers are really important beers, and then they allow the other beers to kind of trickle through, or for you to open the door on exploring other beers and going, oh, but I like Lucky Saint. Maybe I'll try this IPA. Lucky Saint's IPA isn't brilliant, actually, whilst we're on it, but the lager's very good. And then, I don't know if it's been similar to you. I mean, you said you've been away, but January over here this year, it's just been ridiculous. I've not seen this is only my third dry January, so I can't really comment too much, but in my 3 years, I've not seen anything like this.
Yeah, same actually. It's only my third year dry January. This year's I've been back for a little over half the month, and it's impressive. And I went to a brewery yesterday, and they don't have their own, but they have 3 Athletics, draft kombucha, 6 root beers, 2 hop larks, and 4 liquid deaths. Wow. Yeah, and I was like, wow. And it sounds like they're going to keep offering a lot of them, which I wish they brew their own. They have the scale that they could make their own, probably. But again, that's a discussion. I think dry January is really, really starting to change. And that's starting to change people. People are like, all right, dry January, why wouldn't you drink? Or why would you drink non-alcoholic beer? Just drink water. And then all of a sudden they get their hands on an Athletic, or maybe a Go Brewing, or a Best Day, Rationale, or Groovy, any of these other 4 or 5 brands that are going. And then they're like, oh, now I see the point. Yes, this actually tastes good. Yeah, like I can do this. I did an event the other day where I had a tasting at a co-working space, and I invited some people from outside and about 30 members. And we had Groovy, Go. I didn't do Athletic because everybody had heard about Athletic. So Groovy, Go, Match Gang, because I ran into their team in the liquor store on the way. And they're like, oh, okay, here you go. So Match Gang. And then a really local tiny guy called Three Kings, Best Day, a local tiny mocktail cocktail company as well, Wise Tales. And it was a hit. Like, everybody loved Groovy Sangria. Everybody loved Go Deepa. Everybody loved Best Days Kolsch. Everybody had affinities for one of the Three Kings beers. Everybody loved the Wise Tales. And there were like probably 4 or 5 people who were like, we don't drink. We can't drink. We can never participate in these fun events. And now you're having this. I am so happy. And then there are these other people who are like, this stuff gets me through dry January, which I'd never done before. And I've done a dry January without a lot of non-alcoholic beer. I was in Nepal 2023 and I didn't have much. We homebrewed our first batch of our first own, but it was only showed up on like, I think it's January 20th. So I was drinking soda water and dying, for like 3 weeks. And then I get a keg of them, or like 50 bottles of beer, whatever comes out when you brew. And I'm like, those things are gone in like a week. It's like, thank God I have NA beer,
This is the thing. I've had this conversation with so many people that kind of say, oh, I don't like alcohol-free beer, but I like beer. And it's like, well, you can't have both. You can't like beer and not like alcohol-free beer. You can like beer and not like Bud Zero, sure, because I don't really like Bud Zero, but I like alcohol-free beer. But if it tastes like a good beer, which a lot of it does now, you don't have an argument based on palate. Your argument is based on, this doesn't give me the effect that I want to get when I drink a beer. Which, in that case, you may as well just drink whiskey, which is also delicious, don't get me wrong, but it's like you can't have it both ways anymore, which I love. And I love that so many breweries that were against it initially are now releasing beer that's alcohol free. You said, it's interesting to hear actually, you said you think that the UK scene might be like a little bit ahead of America. Like what we're seeing at the moment is breweries starting to explore alcohol free on tap. And we're seeing a lot of breweries release their like signature alcoholic beer in alcohol-free form. That's kind of where we're at. So is, like you talked about tap, is it a no-go? Is it an ongoing thing? Is it a regulation thing? I don't know how America works.
So it's definitely not a regulation thing because, we're not there yet. But I don't know if you know, the Brewers Association and Cornell University, they released a paper like a year ago, basically saying that if you drop some E. coli or salmonella in a beer, an alcohol-free beer, and leave it at room temperature, you're going to die, essentially. The exponential growth curve, exact. But at refrigerated temperatures, it decreases by 2 logarithmic, actually, over 60 days, which, by the way, is about what alcoholic beer decreases over 30 days, according to a different paper. But that scared everybody. There is a good draft scene in Minnesota, because there's a small-scale hub-spoke de-alcoholizing model run by a company called ABV Technology. But outside of that, like Self-Care, the beer I'm drinking right now, 3 Magnets, they maybe had one in their tap room. Atmos, who's been ahead of the game out of Sawtooth Brewery, they probably had a couple in their tap room. Woodland Farms had a couple in the tap room. But it was like outside of hit or miss. And definitely in the 3-tier distribution system, there was no draft. None at all. Now, Athletic, about a year and a half ago, started doing Run Wild and Keg on draft, the blue can. And they're probably in about a couple hundred places across the U.S. now, 2030 in Colorado. Go Brewing, I know, distributes some of their stuff on draft in nearby places around their brewery. They're not going to drop into the 3-tier system yet. I think that's more of a strategy for them, though, focus strategy. But the safety thing's an issue. I think there are longer draft lines that expose themselves to warmer temperatures, maybe, or just less experience. I mean, there's so much draft NA in Europe. It's like, it can definitely be done. It's just, you have to take care, and it will change. Like Mash Gang is already on draft in Colorado. I was supposed to go and find them on Saturday, but it snowed me out, so I'm going tomorrow.
Nice. That's good. I'm glad that they're doing bits over there, because they're like just game changers. I'm glad that they're starting to do things in the States and they're doing things in the UK, and it's just like, I'm very happy for those guys, because we're a good bunch of guys and we make some really good liquid. But I think it's just education, right? Like, in terms of alcohol-free on tap and like the safety of it and all of that. Like, you look at Germany, they've been doing it for years, and it's so normal in German beer culture to have an alcohol-free beer and an alcohol beer like next to each other on tap. In the UK, I think it's hospitality venues knowing how to take care of their lines and things like that. The first Mash Gang I had on tap was terrible, like awful, and I was gutted because I've been looking forward to it for years, and it was just flat and horrible. And I don't think that is because of the liquid that Mashgang sent to them for a second, because I think they'd have told me not to buy it beforehand if I'd have known that, because they're very honest about things when things went wrong. But I think it is just education, and the lack of education in terms of alcohol-free beer is still, it's, not many people really know that much about it. And I think that will improve over time, or I hope it does.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's more about figuring it out. I think breweries being able to serve it on their own premise on draft is just as safe. They just have to make sure to keep those. I mean, breweries are pretty anal about their, quality, like about their safety stuff. They have to be, like because E. coli and salmonella, forget about those type of things. Beer spoilage bacteria is going to jump right into your keg, or wild yeast and things like that first. So, like as long as you keep it cold and your draft line's clean, I think it's fine on premise. But yeah, the 3-tier distribution system with dirty draft lines, I think their worry is that, like, I don't know, somebody goes to the bathroom and doesn't clean their hand or something, it touches the tap and then oops backwards through the line into the keg. But again, it's only that room temperature beer line, that little bit of keg line, which you're going to flush out. That beer is not going to go back into the cold keg and start growing again. We know that much, right? So if it's one tiny bit of E. coli, it's not going to. And that same issue with alcoholic beer, if somebody did the same thing and that were enough to get somebody sick on the tap, it would also still get somebody sick with alcohol beer. Like the literature says the same thing. And I don't, so it's definitely, you say, it's an education thing. It's developing a proper standard operating procedure thing, but Europe's been doing it for so long, and it will.
Of it though, like with sell by dates, I'm guilty of it. I'll look at a sell by date, and if it's a month out with alcohol free, I'm like, oh, I don't trust it. Whereas with full alcohol beer, if I got one that was a bit out of date, it was like, sweet, this is going to be stronger. Like, yes, result.
Yeah,
bizarre.
No, so for me, with a sell by date, I just drank a 2-year-old Ale Smith actually yesterday, and it was fine because I assume Ale Smith, their size is pasteurizing, right? An Athletic, I drank a 3-year-old one. I went and drank a couple 3-year-old ones. I mean, I've heard the founder drink a 3-year-old one on his podcast. Some of them were hit or miss. They're like, they lost most of their flavor, but some of them still held their flavor. I still have some Two Roots. Two Roots is one of the OGs, and they, unfortunately, for various reasons, are no longer. But I still found some cans in the back of my brother's fridge, and I'm like, I'm drinking those. I will drink those because they were pasteurized again, and like, it would. Like, I mean, the beer might spoil. It's going to taste like crap. Then I pour it out, but if it's not pasteurized, then I'm like you, same thing. 3 months, 4 months after production, I'm like, nope, sorry. Unless I know that I've gotten it and I've kept it cold. That's the only way I'll drink it past that. And that's one thing about, for me, is in the U.S. is the breweries that don't pasteurize, you've got to write that on your label. That has to be a basic standard. If you're going to mail order it to people, or if you're going to, heaven, God forbid, get into the 3-tier distribution system without pasteurization, put it on your label so people can make smart decisions.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I've got speaking of like really old beers, I've got a Kitty Pig beer that I think is like 3 years out of date, but I'm just not ready to throw away yet. I haven't drank it.
Kitty Pig from the US.
Yeah, George from Mashgang sent it me.
I think it's 3. I think it should be, they're under 2 years old, but they pasteurize. They 100% don't worry about it.
I've read a date on it that's like, where it might be 2 years. I think it's a 2023 date on it.
Yeah, that's 2 years then. So yeah, you still because 2 years ago they were doing it in Canada, and then this last year they moved their production to the US. So you probably have the original plastic label can.
Yes,
I've got one of those too at my brother's house. I'm debating, should I save it for posterity or should I open it? But I know Kitty Pig pasteurizes. They're good people.
Okay, because I really want to drink it because I really like what they do. It's obviously, like, whenever I get a US beer, it's exciting. Because I don't know what it is about like American craft beer, but it just feels like a real treat. Well, I know what it is. It's because we don't have it over here. Of course, that's like just basic human living, isn't it? Grass is always greener. But it feels like there's some really cool things going on, and not just with beer as well. Like when you were discussing earlier, like kombuchas and liquid death and root beers and things being on offer. That's something that we don't really have here. We have like Coke or beer. in terms of the alcohol-free scene. Like, there are mocktail companies, etc., and wine is improving, but I think that's a different demographic to you people that are going to want to smash a few cans of beer. I mean, you've got a concoction that you're drinking at the moment that I'm very intrigued by.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Self-Care's gnarly time barley wine. I mean, this thing is Self-Care is like the Match Gang in the U.S. They're small. It's a three magnets brewing company. I forget the number. He was on a podcast, a Grits and Grain podcast, less than a month ago. He gave away the number, but it's somewhere similar to what Jordan and Match Gang have done. And they have their wet hop series, their fresh hop series, which, by the way, Athletic has a wet hop and fresh hop series, by the way. So you think that Athletic's not innovative. They do those things. But
this is just becoming an Athletic love fest, and I'm here for it.
I mean, Go Brewing also, like, I like, they had a banana pancake stout last month. Like,
Saw that.
I mean, incredible. They did a hot butcher thing, which I heard amazing things, and I gotta get an order them. I just have been a little slow on restocking them, but yeah, I mean, this Self-Care stuff, like, it's good. I was a bit worried. I mean, he openly doesn't pasteurize right now, but I think he's gonna scale and start pasteurizing. But he's very smart about it. He sends it to you on Monday, so it gets there, doesn't stay in a warehouse. It gets there on Wednesday if you order it. Most of their stuff is done locally. They do self-distribution, so they go to their place and they put it in. And now they're expanding, and I think they're going to pasteurize their core range. But I mean, I'm drinking a barley wine, and there are very few people who you could give this beer to, and they'll be like, that tastes like beer. I mean that they won't say it tastes like beer. I mean, back to your point, it would take a variety, but it would be very hard for me to not be able to convince 9 out of 10 people who would say that there is a good alcohol-free, non-alcoholic beer, right? It comes back to that. So that's like Self-Care. Like, I only just started drinking their stuff, and I really like it too. I'm impressed. Fortunately, I can't send it to you. Not pasteurized. They wouldn't let me. But speaking of non-beer beverages, have you tried Hoplark? Have they gotten over there yet? They just got investment.
Yeah, we've got some hop water. And again, it was when it first happened, hop water. That sounds like such a traumatic event, but when they first started being released, it was like, what's this? What? It's like beer milk almost. You know, like, it was such a weird concept. And when I first drank it, I was like, oh, I don't know, because it's in like a can, and it's like, I'm pouring it up like a beer, and then it's kind of, is it a bit? No, not at all, actually. It's just water. But then you're left with a little bit, you feel like you've been satisfied in a way that beer satisfies you. It was a really confusing time, and that was only really last summer. And last summer was not very hot. Like, we had maybe a week of real heat, but we didn't have a proper lovely summer. I think it's going to be a real hit in great weather. Like, I started getting more into it the more I drank it, but at first it just confused me. I think we're a very stubborn bunch of people. Like, anything that's slightly new or different is like, oh no, don't like that, without even trying it.
Yeah, no, I think that's an interesting thing. Like, with the hop water, the problem I have here is when a brewery goes, I can't make an NA beer, makes hop water, and like, oh, we have options for NA people. It's fine now, but I hope in the future it's kind of like a stepping stone. Hop water is good. There are a couple brands that I think are incredible. Hop water, there's a brand Hop Water, which I think they're pretty good, but there's a brand called Hoplark, and they actually mix teas into theirs, into some of theirs. They have a 0.0 line with teas and hops, and recently they added orange juice and pineapple juice into one, but just a little bit of it, and made a hazy style. And it was incredible. It was like, it wasn't a hazy IPA, but it was this hazy, tasty, 13-calorie liquid that made you kind of feel like you were drinking an IPA. It's super refreshing. That apple pie. So people can be creative in that way too. I think that's one place where we possibly have an edge on you guys, is the hop water adjacent conjunctions. And as long as they're not a brewery's effort to not brew non-alcoholic beer, and then like put it on tap and then be like, oh, that didn't sell either, so we're definitely not going to do it. I appreciate hop water and adjuncts for their own. And there are some really, like Hoplark, I can't even keep up with them anymore.
I think it's
varieties.
It's options, isn't it? I think that's all that you want, really. Like, as somebody that doesn't drink myself, I just want options. I don't want to have an orange juice or have a Coca-Cola. because for me, why would I? Well, I wouldn't pick up an orange juice at home. I mean, maybe first thing in the morning, but of an evening, I don't want to drink an orange juice. Why do I want to drink this at a tap room or when I'm out at a pub? I don't. If you can't give me a beer, at least give me something that feels like a grown-up beverage that doesn't make me feel like I stick out in a room.
Exactly.
And the experimentation is great. And I think it's, breweries over here they're struggling. Like hospitality is struggling. So we need to innovate and we need to experiment with things not to reinvent the drinking culture, because I think the drinking culture can be a wonderful thing. Like, I love alcohol. I think it's great. I just think that there are other ways for people to enjoy these venues that maybe aren't consuming alcohol. And I think with more experimentation and with more risks almost, that could really unlock the future of hospitality.
I agree. I think you have 2 points where you hit that I'm like more and more on is especially in the struggling right now, because I think if you look at the breweries, the smaller breweries here who are really, really like all the NA big ones are growing, like Athletic, Best Day, they're all exploding. Go, I mean, they sold more in one day this January they did in all January last year. Was that last year? I can't remember. Like it's massive. Groovy also, they're all doing well. But the thing is, when you see a little brewery invest in their NA, invest in their community, what happens is they actually can bring in new communities, and you have new offerings, new adult beverages that aren't adult in the sense that they will get you intoxicated. They're adult in the sense that you feel like you're an adult in the room. I mean, I was in Nepal for the last 2.5 months, and I've stopped drinking now. I'm 18 months now almost without a drink. And I was making my own hop tea, water conjunctions. I was like, oh, Hoplark did this. I'm going to try to do it. But the thing is, I had my friend's wedding. I had this, I had that. As long as I had something in my hand that wasn't Coke. But the thing is, I was also lamenting with sober people who never had drunk before, or maybe had one drink in their life. And we were at some work event, and it was, you had 10 different, beer, whiskey, wine, this, that. And then it was like Coke, Fanta, Sprite, not even soda water. It's like, so I'm going to either can be a drinker, which we're not anymore, and some people never have been. And there are a lot of cultures where there's a certain percentage of the society that doesn't drink at all.
Yeah, of course.
We send them to the most unhealthy beverage we've created, soda, commercial soda. And it's like, let's have something in between. And that's where a hop water could fill, or a non-alcoholic beer can fill, or a, properly made, thought out, non-alcoholic, alcohol-free cocktail, and that's going to open up a whole new beverage group. But it's also, what do we call it? Zebra striping, where you have your alcohol-free beer, right? That's going to increase safety. I mean, one brewery here was like, I was talking about his NA, and he's like, yeah, one guy was totally wasted at a New Year's party, and I was really worried I was going to get home, and he was drinking our alcoholic version of this, so I just swapped the can out. 4 hours later, he just kept going through the non-alcoholic cans and came up and asked me, did you switch my drink for a non-alcoholic? And the guy, the bartender, was expecting to get yelled at. Instead, what he got was a thank you. Wow. And I think those type of anecdotes, they illustrate the potential for, society to become safer too. I mean, the whole reason alcohol-free beer exists to such a culture in Germany is because of their drunk driving laws, right? That's a big, big driver.
Yeah.
So this from a safety perspective too, encouraging just drinking. But it's like you go to a brewery and you go there for their beer, and then you're going to switch to a commercial NA. It's tough, right? But maybe a local regional NA you'll switch to, right? Or your own you'll switch to, or you'll bring your friends in who don't drink. And that's where I think we're going to start seeing that evolution. Oh, hey, here's, I'm a brewery. I can't make my own, but here's 6 different NA beverages for you. You can have fun with your friends. Come with your friends. Come enjoy what we have. And it's going to be a shift in the hospitality. People shouldn't be afraid of dry January as much. Breweries shouldn't be as more as, can we develop a new way to bring in a better audience with beverages designed for these months that may increase the tabs of our regular drinkers too, because they'll add an alcohol-free beverage to their, and I have this thing. There's a legal distinction here. in the U.S., non-alcoholic is 0.5 and below, and alcohol-free is 0.05 and below.
Yeah, we have that as well. Low alcohol is up to 0.5. Alcohol-free is below 0.5, which is just, I mean, it's bullshit. That's my, everyone's heard of the banana and the orange juice and the percentages in ABV.
You're not 0.5. Like, we don't have a low alcohol yet. Your alcohol free is our not alcoholic, and our alcohol free is something you guys probably don't even have. It's like literally 0.0. Sorry,
You have some.
Heineken is a 0.0.
We've got a few 0.0s. So Heineken is a 0.0. The best 0.0 is Freedom over here, I think, which is like it's quite a pleasant lager. And there's a few 0.0. 0.3 seems to be quite popular over here. Get a fair amount of 0.3s. I don't even look at it anymore. Like, I mean, I do, but not in terms of it's a 0.0. Well, that means this, or I'm comfortable with what 0.5% entails. Which again, we go back to education. The amount of people, even like beer people, because I'm lucky enough to be friends with a lot of people in the full out craft beer scene, which again shows the progression of alcohol-free beers in the world, because 5 years ago these people would probably have thought I was a loser. But a lot of these guys don't even know about the 0.5 orange juice kind of comparison, and it's like, oh really? So yeah, you can't get drunk on it. Like, who was it? It was someone in the States, a bottle shop. He
Rob at Generation NA.
Yeah, with the bread and
bread and the orange juice.
Yeah. That was just that was perfection. Like, that summed it up. He did something that I'd been wanting to do for a long time, and just these things where you're like, oh, I'm going to do that one day. It'll be funny, and then just never get around to doing it. He actually went there, and it was perfection.
Rob is an amazing thing. I think, like, it's like when somebody introduces a new NA beer, I'm like, you've got to get on the national wholesale platform so that people like Rob can get your beer, because he wants to sell your beer. He wants to drink your beer. And by the way, Generation NA has 20,000 followers. So he'll be buying and selling your beer in exchange for influence for you, because he's great. Like, I love him. I love a lot of the bottle shops over here. And I hope that industry makes it through, because it's like some of them, like Open Road, they collaborate with local brewery on Mod Month and have their own collab beers right now. It's like, I want to buy a plane ticket to Pittsburgh just to go visit them, Like, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, 0.0 though, like, it is a taste thing though. Like, we have a couple here, like craft size, right? We have Atmosphere, and they do their alcohol removal production in Germany, their whole beer production. And then we have Siri out of Colorado, and they have their own way of making alcohol-free beer without. It's good, but it tastes slightly different, and you have to tell people that. Mm-hmm. Then people like it. But it is an education thing. Like, I mean, I honestly think you can drink 1% beers and nothing happened, right?
Yeah, I probably do fall into that category. Like, I have to really check myself on it, because I've been having this thing lately where I'm like, what's the point of a table beer now? And I'm genuinely, it's only entered my brain in the last few weeks. But now everybody that I talk to, I end up saying, do you think there's any point in table beers anymore? Because for me, you're drinking a table beer because you are aware of your alcohol intake, and you are trying to manage that. That's what you're drinking a table beer. Now, if you're doing that 4 years ago, yeah, go for a table beer. That's a good thing to do. Whereas now, there are so many very, 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 very good alcohol-free beers that you can drink that still taste good, and you don't have to worry at all about your alcohol intake. Where do table beers fit into? Are they like, is a table beer going to become like a gateway beer into alcohol-free for people?
I wonder. It could be a happy in between. I think there are a couple. Dad Strength Brewing and Andiamo and a few others who started specializing in like the 3% beers here. I lean into the 1% primarily because I've experimented with, making NA beers, and sometimes you miss and you get a 0.7%. It's like, well, am I actually not sober if I'm drinking that? And I think there's a fine line. I think there's a certain number of people possibly might trigger them, but so might a 0.5. I think for me, I'm the type of person who's okay, and I wish there was maybe a 0.5 to 1.5 category, maybe just to allow these NA beer, these breweries about to make an NA beer, make a mistake and still have a market for it that isn't stigmatized.
Sure, because it's not just for sober people, is it? That's the thing that I think is really important. Like, the vast majority of these people that drink alcohol-free or very, very low ABV beer, they're not alcoholics. Like, there are those that are, like, high. Will Zebra Stripe and occasionally have an alcohol-free beer, but they're not. I mean, some of them might be borderline, but they're not. They're not alcoholics. There's a lot of people that drink this stuff that don't have a drink problem. So I think, again, it's options, it's accessibility, it's making the most possible amount of choices available to people. So yeah, it's just interesting. The real low ABV beers I find it hard to place where they fit into my future utopian world.
I think I mean, maybe they wouldn't exist, but I think it's like hey, here's a small brewery. They want to kind of hit, I think there are a lot of people, I'd probably, if somebody gave me a 0.9% beer in the middle of dry January, I'd still consider myself dry, right? I think there's that category of people with the proper communications, and it's the proper ability to hey, test. I know there was a brewery who released a 0.9 and they got ripped on social media because they first went out and called it non-alcoholic. And that was dumb on their part. But then if they tweak the messaging, it has an audience because a lot of the same people yelling at them would probably go drink it. And I would like to see that. And it's semantics, it's terms. But as you say, there needs to be kind of an off-ramp, like if you got somebody drinking, you've got, hey, I've got this 1.5% beer, 1% beer, drink that instead and don't drive home, because you could drink 5 of those things and, not have nothing happen to you, right? But I mean, it's a thought for the future, I think, is where's the really low alcohol, but still not non-alcoholic space? Is there space for that?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that kind of heads, because I think there's always, like, alcohol's always going to exist, and I think alcohol should always exist. Like, there's a place for those 11% imperial stouts, because they are delicious. And if you're lucky enough to be able to enjoy one every now and again, then all power to you, go and do that. Like, I'd never want to see alcohol vanish from society. But I'd just like to see more options. But
same.
It's interesting that we've been talking about beer pretty solidly now for an extended period of time. And it's only really the last sort of 5 minutes that we've gone, oh, hi, I'm an alcoholic. You can have full conversations with people about beer without them even knowing that you're talking about the fake stuff, as some would call it, I think that speaks volumes for where the industry is at.
Yeah, and I like your song. It's the same thing. It just doesn't have alcohol in it. And I think, I don't know if you have this over there, but I've seen it more, especially driven on the wine side. But everybody's like, no, it's a new abolition, a prohibitionist movement, neo-prohibitionism. And it's like the segment and all that stuff. And I'm like, all right, if there are people, I mean, I get being disgusted with the over excessive, encouraging too much drinking ads, but being disgusted with drinking, it's like, it's been in our culture long before commercialization existed. So there is the commercialization aspect, but there's the aspect of you go into any village anywhere in the world and they have some form of alcoholic beverage, right? And as you say, I think the non-alcoholic, alcohol-free movement is about options. And that's what it needs to be about. It's not about prohibition. I don't want to see people that like drinking to not have be able to have a glass of wine. My mom's had a glass of wine every day since probably after my brother was born, right? And she's the most active person I know at age 65. It's perfectly healthy. Go a bottle and a half. It's a glass of 2 a day max, right? A lot of people like that. There are a lot of people who enjoy those 11% beers. And sure, there's some people who drink too much. And that's where the options need to come in. If you have more options, perhaps you can stave off that potential alcoholism. Maybe it's about that excessive. They like to have beverage and they like to drink a lot of it. So like for me, it was like, how did you just drink 5 NA beers? Like, why would you do that? I'm like, because I like beer. Yeah. And I like soon. Boom, 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 boom. Oh my God, there are 5 options here. I'm going to do my own taste off tonight. Options, good options. introduced at the right time, I personally think, and I think there are other people out there, that could possibly be a way to combat alcoholism before alcoholism hits some people.
Yeah, that's like, it sums it up perfectly. Like, I can relate to that so hard as well. But how have you've drank 2 pints before I finish mine? It's like, yep, because they've got them. They've got them, so I'm going to drink them. Like, you find a venue with like 5 or 6 different options. Like, I'm having every single one of them before we move to the next venue, because seeing them in the wild still feels like a treat.
Same. And it's like, and I maybe like I miss my brewery days, because it's like, oh, I love having a 4-ounce flight of 4 beers. I wouldn't stop, right? It'd be like 4-ounce flight. Oh my God, that 11% is good. Here's another 11%. Here's another 11%. And I wouldn't the blackout drunk thing, all that stuff didn't happen very often and all that stuff. But still, I was drinking too much, right? And it was starting to turn my health. I could tell. And the thing is, when a brewery had an NA option of their own, I would have more likely turned off that off switch. I mean, like, cool, I'm going to go try your 4 new beers, a 4-ounce glass of each, and then I'm going to have your NA. That option isn't available right now, so I'm not drinking at all, right? But I do know, like I said, I'm in Nepal, I've homebrewed my own NA beers with my friends. They homebrew an 11% stout. I'm going to have 3 ounces of it. Mm-hmm. And then I switched to my NA, because I know I tasted their stout. Damn, it was good. My NA, which could use a little work, to be honest, but I'm going to drink it and I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah, it's there and it's kind of beer. That's all we can ask for, isn't it? The rest is a bonus. Where do you see the future of NA beer going? What do you think that the next steps are? Or like, what would you like to see, or what do you think you're going to see?
I'm going to avoid percentage of sales, because I don't know. I think I'm going to talk about percentage of accessibility. So I think you're going to start, I hope, this is my vision, right? So say you have your Colorado town of, 100,000 people or whatever. So you have obviously one brewery for 1,000 people, because that's how we are, right? So you have 100 breweries, right? I'm going to say that 20 of them are offering an Athletic, a Go, a Best Day, a national brand. 30 to 40 of them are offering a regionally or locally produced NA. And the remainder, the other 40, are making one of their own. And I don't just mean a hop water. I mean a hop water and a beer, and they're leaning into it. And you're going to start seeing smaller tap rooms who specialize in craft breweries with, like, say, 10 taps. 3 to 4 of them will be NA. That's where I hope the sector goes, really, because it's just about options. And sure, maybe those 7 alcoholic taps will rotate through twice before the 3 non-alcoholic taps will. But by having them, you're bringing more people in. You're upping the taps. You're giving more options. So those guys buying 7 are also buying 1 NA, and they're bringing their friends who are going to buy the NAs. So that's where I see it going, is a much more inclusive space. I mean, what about you? Actually, I want to add, like, what's your?
Yeah, I feel like first we have to crack the tap. I think even if it's a brand like Heineken, I think every pub in the UK, or at least the majority of them, you've got to get a rotating line on tap. And I think that's going to be the real kind of revolution in alcohol-free beer in the UK, is having an accessible one that everyone knows that is good on tap in pubs. I think this dry January, if it's shown me anything, it's that breweries certainly have the capability to release alcohol-free beers in volume, because pretty much every brewery I know have released one. And I'm talking even like traditional English ales now are coming out alcohol-free. And I haven't been able to get that before. That's a very kind of, the alcohol-free beers that are really malt-heavy and really sweet and synthetic and horrible. That's kind of how they tasted. Whereas now it's like, this is good. So I think we're going to see more of those traditional beers coming out in alcohol-free form. And I'm just hoping that more people start to embrace it. And I think that the zebra striping is going to be a real goer. I'd like to see more advertising in terms of that. So instead of just advertising alcohol-free, I'd like to see it advertised alongside alcohol. I think that's the future of it, because I think by blue labeling alcohol-free stuff and being like, here's alcohol-free stuff, avoid all of this negativity, alcohol-free, it's so good, it's so clean, it's so like, I think that actually damages it. I think you should say, here's a banging, like, let's say cocktail. Oh, here's a fancy cocktail. It's going to get you all merry and nice. but then there's an alcohol-free one as well if you want that. I think the two together actually is more impactful than having them separate, because the amount of people who will see an alcohol-free advert and go, whereas if you see it together, you might go, oh, I didn't know they did that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's where I'd like to see things heading.
Same. I love a 50-50 tap room, or, and I love it when, like, as you said, it's in the UK too. It's starting to happen here. A brewery releases the NA version of their alcoholic beer. And now it's all about leaning into it. Hey, have one, have the other. And let's not stigmatize it. Let's normalize it. Let's give people options. We need the options. We love the options. So, you benefit from it.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I mean, if we like it, then the chances are other people are, because I really used to enjoy a lot of beer. Like, to my detriment, the amount of beer that I drank in my life was enough to nearly unalive me. So, if I can drink this stuff and find it palatable, then most people are going to be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, same by the guy, people are like, Tyler, I just stopped drinking beer. I'm like, I just substituted non-alcoholic for it. And they're like, wow, you? I'm like, yeah, me. I love beer. But this is good. And pretty much everybody I've legit handed a can or two of non-alcoholic beer, almost everybody. And they're like, wow, this is good. They've slightly reduced their alcohol consumption because it might have been borderline. So instead of 25 drinks a week, it's now 10. But then there's 10 non-alcoholic beers. So if you're the brewery that was making the alcoholic beer and you had a non-alcoholic beer, guess what? You wouldn't lose the business.
Yep.
And
it's exactly that. Exactly that. Well, thank you very much for coming to chat. It's been really interesting, actually, and I think really enlightening to, again, be able to have just a conversation about beer without mentioning alcoholism. Like, I mean, there might have been a couple of loose mentions of it, but the majority, it was just like, oh, this is a beer that exists in the States, and this is what these guys do, and then it'd be, oh, this is what beer exists in the UK, and it's, beer is a universal language. And I think when you apply that logic to alcohol-free beer, I think the camaraderie only gets tighter because it's so neat. And there's so much love within that scene that we all just want to see it do well and we want to see it grow. So it's been a really lovely chat.
Yeah, it has. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. And I appreciate your British beers coming this way and starting to punch into the market too. I hope to see more of them.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Sober Boozers Club podcast. My name is Ben Gibbs. You can find me on all the socials at Sober Boozers Club. If you're interested in the world of American alcohol-free beer and you want to see what Tyler's up to, head over to his socials at Reducaholic. He's got a fantastic array of beers for you to have a look at. For now, have a good one, have a safe one. I love you.